Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make NBA DFS content, prize picks content, all the good stuff. All these videos, they get posted right here. I make updates with all the news that comes out throughout the day. Anything you need, you can ask me questions leading up to lock, all that good stuff. I'll have a link down below. I'm going to cash tonight. I'm not sweating, but should be a good night. My lineup was Jokic, Jemison, Goodwin, Cam Thomas, Ivy, Metu, Pereira, and who was the last one? GG Jackson. So it's going to be a good night for me. It was a good night yesterday as well. Hopefully you guys had a good night. If you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can get a hold of me on Twitter right there. All right, we are going to fly right through this slate. Unfortunately, I have to get this video out early, so I gotta move really quickly through this slate. I have something to do within the next 30 minutes that I need to get done. So I am going to, apologies, not going to do too much analysis. I am going to quickly go through this slate. All right, if you're looking for more DFS content, prize picks content, all the good stuff, like I said, I'll have my Discord link down below. All right, let's get into it. All right, Zion questionable if he's in. I like CJ. I like Zion up at the top. I think CJ looks a bit better point per dollar, but I think both are solid. Actually, maybe Zion looks a bit better point per dollar, but I think both are decent options. Don't mind the spot going up against Phoenix. So I like both of them quite a bit up at the top. Trey Murphy would be priced right if they're both in. Same with Herb Jones, maybe a bit overpriced. Jonas, his minutes would be a bit more in question. It would just be a large field GPP play for me. And then I don't know if it gets, like Nance would be fine as well. Now, if we get Zion out, that changes a lot. Then I absolutely love CJ McCollum at 8.3K. He would be one of the best mid-range plays on the slate. I would absolutely love him. Trey Murphy would be a decent option at 6.7K. He'd have to do a lot more offensively. He's a stat sheet stuffer. Herb Jones would be playable, but I prefer the price point on Trey Murphy. Jonas Valanciunas possibly would have to play a bit more because they do like playing Zion at the 5 some. He'd have a higher minute ceiling and a higher ceiling in general. I'd be intrigued by him in GPPs, but if he's popular, it's someone you could definitely get away from because they could always just go to Nance, right? But yeah, Jonas would look pretty good. If you take a look at the rotation last game, I'm sorry guys, I have so many tabs up, but that's what it's going to take to get all these videos out. You got to look at rotations every single night. If you take a look at the rotation here, you can see Jonas and Nance basically split. But Jonas did play a bit more this time, going up against the Spurs. Now, could that flip? That could always happen, right? So like I've said, if he's going to be chalked tomorrow because of it, if Zion's out, you could always make the argument to fade. But if he does get around 30 minutes, he is going to nuke the slate at this price point. Like I said, Nance is fine. And then they did start Dyson Daniels last game. He played 37 minutes. He would be a decent value as well. He's a guy, solid rebounder for a guard. Could stuff the stats, shoot a decent amount. He would be a solid value as well. But keep an eye on Alvarado. Keep an eye on Najee Marshall as well. Najee Marshall came off the bench. He got hurt. And yes, keep an eye on that. It's the early game. Always update Reddit. But if it's the same situation, they start Dyson, everyone else is out, then I like Dyson quite a bit. And then, yeah, keep an eye on Alvarado as well. All right, moving on to Phoenix. Not much I like here in a tough matchup going up against the Pels with the fully healthy team. I mean, I think this is a spot where Phoenix could close small. So like Nurkic minutes could be a lot more in question in this spot. Only 26 minutes got into foul trouble here up against Minnesota. Did play 32 here up against Cleveland. 36 in that Pelicans game previously. But as always, they can always close small. But like I'm intrigued in GPPs just because if the minutes are there, he could smash and the price point is down. He's probably my favorite play on this Phoenix team, but outside of like Beal, I think Beal's the easiest to get to, but no priorities here. I don't like much. It's basically, if you want to play like Beal, Kevin Durant, Booker, Nurkic, it's fine, but I'm not going to prioritize go out of my way to play any of these guys. All right, moving on to Portland. Not a good match for going up against Boston, but they're running a really, really tight rotation here. So I still think you have to have some interest in these guys. Ayton played 40 minutes. He has been phenomenal. He's been doing absolutely everything for this team. I still think he's a really solid play, even in this matchup. Scoot, Banton, both look decent. Walker's playing big minutes. He's playable. Chris Murray, Rupert, I'm sure will get better value, but they are playing over 30 minutes. They're low usage, but fine. Moving on to Boston, so I'm assuming at least one of these guys will sit. We know what to do if they sit. It boats it. You'll probably get a starting lineup of Drew Holiday, Derek White, Sam Hauser, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford would be my guess of the starting lineup. And then you'll see more minutes for Peyton Pritchard off of the bench. If they're about that, I mean, it's hard not to like Kristaps Porzingis at 7.7K in a really good spot going up against Portland. I would really, really like Porzingis if they're both out. Derek White, Drew Holiday would both be decent, but I prefer Porzingis. Horford would be a decent option at 5.3K. He'd have to play around 30 minutes in a good spot, stat sheet stuffer. And then I'd like both the value plays here in Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard. I believe Sam Hauser shot like 1 of 16 last game, 1 of 18, just wild. But in these spots when players do rest, he does play pretty big minutes. So he'd be a really solid value, and then Peyton Pritchard would have to play more. He'd be an intriguing tournament play. I think that's it for Boston. Let's move on to Washington. So got to keep an eye on the Kyle Kuzma here, and got to keep an eye on Richaun Holmes. If we get a similar situation to last game, they did go with the starting lineup of Jordan Poole, Denny Avdija, Corey Kispert, Vucevic, and Johnny Davis, I believe. Where is Davis? Here he is. I believe he got benched, though. Didn't close. Yeah, they closed with Anthony Gill, I believe. Yeah. So we get the same situation. Then the guys you want to look to here are the main three. I think Jordan Poole would look very good once again at 7.5K. He'd be one of the better mid-range plays in the slate. Still Denny at 7.6K. Good option. Same with Corey Kispert, but now he's getting to the price point to where I think he should be, but going to play big minutes. All three very, very safe in a really good matchup. Vucevic would be a really good value. Would like him quite a bit. I'm not going to play Johnny Davis. I'm not going to play Gill unless they like change the starting lineup. If Holmes is in, then I like Holmes quite a bit at 4.5K, assuming he starts. If Kyle Kuzma's in and both are in, I still like Holmes. Kuzma would be intrigued by, but downgrade everyone else. They'd still be playable at least. And yeah, let's move on to Toronto. So we have Gary Trent, Bruce Brown, both questionable. If they're both out, I assume starting lineup would be Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Kelly Olynyk, Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji. So, with that being said, in a phenomenal matchup, we got full minutes last game for RJ and Emmanuel Quickley. I would expect full minutes in a phenomenal matchup here going up against Washington. I mean, Quickley's just doing everything. He's stuffing the statue. He legit is triple-double upside. He's going to play close to 40 minutes. I really like Quickley, even at that price point. RJ Barrett has a ceiling. He's a decent option. Kelly Olynyk's playable, probably my least favorite of the three. I think he's probably a bit overpriced. Dick, if he starts, is fine. Ochai, priced right. I don't know if it gets anyone off of the bench. Now, if Trent and Bruce Brown are in, then sure, Trent has a ceiling, but probably priced right with everyone back. And I wouldn't get to the value. Moving on to OKC. So last game, they went with a starting lineup of Josh Giddey, Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, and Gordon Hayward. I believe Gordon Hayward got hurt. I'm not entirely sure there. I mean, good luck. They're changing the starting lineup every single game. They're trolling the minutes. The one guy I'm confident in the value that will get minutes is a guy like Isaiah Joe. They could always go back to like that Aaron Wiggins lineup. I believe they started Jalen Williams one game. I mean, keep an eye on the starting lineup. It's the early game. We'll get this news. Whoever starts would be playable for value. I'd prefer it to be Joe. I'd feel pretty confident in his minutes. He's going to play 20 regardless, and he has a ceiling. Josh Giddey, Chet Holmgren last game, they did play around 30 minutes. Chet got into foul trouble. Josh Giddey played 35 minutes. So if you think he is not going to troll the minutes with his main guys, the guys you want to look to are Chet and Giddey, who I think look like really good options if they do get similar minutes. They are still too cheap with SJ and Jalen Williams out if they get 30 plus minutes. Lou Dort's playable, and then like I said, if they start like Joe, I like Joe for value. Hayward's fine if he starts, but messing with the other value, good luck. Moving on to Charlotte, not the best spot here going up against OKC, but the good thing is they're going to play their main guys 40 minutes. Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, Mann, Mitchich, Grant Williams, all playing 40 minutes. So with that being said, I think Grant Williams, assuming Nick Richards is out, he is right now questionable. He's been out for a long, long time. You should get starting at the 5. He's been incredible for this team, played 38 minutes last game, would be a good point per dollar play. Would like him quite a bit. Mitchich would be decent. Prefer him to Mann. Miller, Miles Bridges, I think are solid. Not priorities, not standouts, but solid plays at their price points with the amount of minutes they're playing. I don't know if I get to anyone off of the bench, though. Chicago, keep an eye on the news with Kobe White, Alex Caruso, Torrey Craig. If they're all out, you probably get what? DeMar DeRozan, Vooch, Ayo, Javonte Green, and like a Dalen Terry, maybe? I mean, who else could start? Maybe they go Drummond, but I would assume it would be the other option. If they're all out, it's going to be bumps to DeMar. It's going to be bumps to Vooch. Depending on the starting lineup, yeah, Javonte Green, Could have liked Dalen Terry, etc. It's just kind of hard to say right now. Need to see the lineup, etc. But we could have some good value here for Chicago. I'll make updates on Reddit when we do get to see all these games lock. For these teams, that's kind of hard to say right now. I will always make updates on Reddit what that changes, etc. Moving on to Orlando, don't like much here. The one guy that I'm intrigued by is Wendell Jr. He's randomly played 40 minutes last game. I mean, if we get 40 minutes again from Wendell Jr. at 5.2K, he is far too cheap, but not entirely convinced we do get those minutes again. Paulo Franz, they're just there for me. Don't love the pace of this game. Two good defensive teams, two slow-paced teams going up against each other. I don't know if I get to the value. We'll just have so much better value there. Moving on to the Sixers. Back-to-back here. I guess we could see someone sit, like possibly like an Embiid sit, possibly a Maxey sit. They've had everyone questionable every single game. So we'll keep an eye on that. But if Embiid plays, it's hard to get to him at that price point on a limit, although it is a really, really good matchup going up against the Spurs. He should play around 30 minutes in a competitive game. I mean, I guess it's playable just because prior to the season, he was basically only playing 3/4 a game and still going for like 70. So like in play for tournaments, Maxey does play better alongside Joel Embiid and should play close to 40 minutes. I love the spot here. So I don't mind Maxey and GPPs. Not going to get to much else here on the Sixers with everyone healthy. Then if we get like players sitting, that's when we can, start getting into other guys. Say like everyone's out. Then Oubre would look phenomenal. Kyle Lowry would look good. Paul Reed would look amazing. Buddy Hield would be playable. Campaign would look phenomenal. There would be a ton to like here. Batum would be playable, etc. If we get like, Joel Embiid out and everyone else in, then I really like Tyrese Maxey. Tobias Harris would be playable. Oubre would be priced right. Paul Reed with no Mo Bamba would look good, etc. So, could have potential stuff here on a back-to-back. Moving on to the Spurs, looks like we're going to have Keldon Johnson back. I don't think he'll start. I think they'll just keep going with Sandro Mamukelashvili. But with Keldon back, it's going to hurt the minutes for possibly Shampenny, possibly Branham, possibly the bench pieces like Graham, Wesley, etc. I still think there's some decent values here in like Branham, Shampenny, Sandro, assuming Sandro starts again. Really good point per minute guy. I would expect low 20s minutes. He would look good. Keldon himself at 5.4K, I'm intrigued by. We'll see if he's at any on some type of limit. He's been out since the 29th. I would expect him not to be, but should play over 30 minutes. 5.4K for a really high usage guy off of the bench with no Devin Vassell. Sign me up for that. I think that's decent. Trey Jones is fine, and then Wemby is always a good spend up. Just tough matchup here going up against. Actually, it's not that tough. Wemby is a guy that can play out to the perimeter, and Embiid kind of struggles with that. So I actually don't mind the spot here for Wemby. I think people are going to overreact to the matchup. It's actually not that bad of a matchup at all for Wemby. And I think that's it. Yeah, Branham, Shampenny, still solid options. Sandro, if he starts with Keldon back, still decent. And just slight downgrades with Keldon back. Moving on to the Knicks. I love Jalen Brunson. I think he's one of the best upper mid-range spend-ups on the slate. I absolutely love him here going up against the Bucks. Phenomenal matchup. Should play 40 minutes. Doing everything for this team. I absolutely love Jalen Brunson. Really, really good play. We do have OG Anunoby back. That's going to hurt the minutes. Like Miles McBride, basically unplayable. It's going to hurt Hart. It's going to hurt Dante. They're still playable just because they're probably still going to play high 30s minutes. Just not as good plays as they once were. And I don't think I get to the value here. Let's move on to the Bucks. So, Milwaukee. If Giannis is in, I like Giannis. He's always a good spend up. Every time he's on the slate, he's always going to be one of the better spend ups on the slate. I probably won't get to anyone else here, though, if Giannis is in. If Giannis is out, we know what to do. Dame looks great. Middleton will be a solid option. Bobby Portis would be playable at 6.8K and has a ceiling. Brook Lopez is just there for me. They started Crowder last game, but they didn't play him much. They kind of went to more pack content, but we also could have Pat Bev out. So, I don't know if we get to the value here. And let's move on to Sacramento. Sacramento at Brooklyn. So, they said they were going to play their main guys. They were going to uptick the minutes. That's what we saw. We saw Fox basically play the entire game. So, if he's going to play 44 minutes, I think you have to have some interest in it. I don't think this game went to overtime. I'm pretty sure it didn't. I think you have to have interest in him. I think I prefer Brunson, but he's playable at least. Sabonis, I think, is a solid contrarian spend up at 10.2K. Keegan Murray should play close to 40 minutes. He's very, very safe. Solid rebounder. Guy that's going to chuck when he's out there. I don't mind it. And then Barnes, Ellis, they're playable, but I feel like better value will open up. Moving on to Brooklyn, good spot here. I mean, when will the Cam Thomas faders learn? He's been absolutely crushing every single slate. I know he's giga chalk today, but I still think he's a really good play, and the price point came down. Don't mind the matchup going up against Sacramento as well. I still really like Cam Thomas. I think Bridges is solid as well. I personally would rather get to a Cam Thomas, but I don't mind Bridges at 6.8K. Schroeder's very safe, had a nice second half tonight. Cam Johnson coming back, going to hurt Dorian Finney-Smith. Trendon Watford wouldn't really touch those guys. All right. This is the team where you got to get right. Do you think they're going to play poorly in the first quarter and get benched like they did last game? That's why they played poorly in the first quarter and just didn't come back. It's because they played bad in the first quarter. I read all the interviews, all the quotes from the Utah Jazz. That's why they got benched. So if you think they play well and don't get benched, I think there's some really good plays here. First off, Yurt7, I think, is going to play around 20 minutes regardless, possibly more. He looks like a really good value. But if you don't think they get benched, I think Sensabaugh is a good value. I really like him. Hendricks is playable. Keontae George-Sexton, they're going to have to do everything for this team. Solid options in the mid-range. I'm not going to mess with the value, but if you want to throw darts in like 150 max, and if you want to play for them getting benched, sure, you could throw like a THT in a lineup, possibly, I guess, but I will not be doing that. No way. Moving on to the Warriors, Steph Curry out, Kuminga questionable, Wiggins questionable, Gary Payton questionable as well. If we get everyone out, I would expect the starting lineup to be Chris Paul, Draymond, Clay, Trace, probably Moody. I think they kind of like pods off of the bench. I guess they could go with pods, but with that being said, I absolutely love Chris Paul with no Steph Curry. I think he's one of the best value plays in the slate. I love him. Pod's probably going to have to get more run. Decent option. Moody, if he starts, I really like for value. Trace is solid. Clay going to have to do a lot more offensively. He looks good. Draymond plays worse with no Steph, but still playable. I don't know if we get to much else. Now, if everyone's in, we'll see what they do with starting lineup. Do they keep Kuminga off the bench? Actually, I don't know if he came off the bench yet, but Steve Kerr was hinting at the fact that they want to go with the starting lineup that's been winning, and they've been winning games of late. So we'll see, but they don't have Steph, etc. So we'll see what they do with the lineup. If everyone's in, I still absolutely love Chris Paul. You can still get the pods. And then we'll see what they do with the lineup. Still would like Klay Thompson quite a bit, and Trace would still be playable. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Sorry to get through this quick, guys, and I will talk to y'all in the next video.